Hey everybody, how are you today? Just getting set up here. I watched or I listened to Scott Greer's live stream yesterday. If he's legit, he's very intelligent and he's very well spoken. It's just I've got some thoughts, but he's very, very intelligent. He's definitely earned his IQ, and I imagine he's not lying about his height. So hopefully in between everything that he's doing, he's looking for his spouse if he's not already married. I'm assuming he's pretty young. So as you can see, for today's stream, we're going to be discussing Babe Ruth's greatness on another level. So last week I focused on... So this exercise for these 2 weeks has been figuring out American baseball greatness. In light of what MLB tries to sell us. So the MLB season for 2021, based on the headlines that I've read, based on the narratives that the Marxist MLB media has put out there, up through September were pretty bland. Like the most boring MLB season possibly ever. It was really boring. Just from the outside looking in, right? I have my favorite players, but Mad Bum apparently had an injury. Greinke, same thing, suffered some sort of injury this season. Greinke was recently on the COVID injured list. And then David John LeMahieu is a new dad. Plus he plays for the Steinbrenner Yankees, and then they changed the ball. So if I could, I don't know, has anybody even asked LeMahieu about the ball? Like, maybe that's, you guys have, and that's just not a response you guys have tweeted out, but he's still batting .270, which obviously in LeMahieu world is not, to me, it's not normal. I know he's better than that, but there's a lot of factors in it. Again, as far as I'm concerned, everything that comes out of MLB is engineered. So we just don't know. That's how much I don't trust MLB. That's how much I don't believe in MLB. Like, as far as I'm concerned, they're probably telling them to cool off the bat. Like, but it could also just be the fact that he's a new dad. It's different, right? It's different for everyday players to become new dads as opposed to pitchers when they become new dads. It's just different. And so maybe, I don't know, but nonetheless, so for my favorite players, it hasn't been the most exciting seasons. Mad Bum had his 7-inning no-hitter, which was awesome according to the highlights. Greinke's still being Greinke. But overall, it just feels like a very lackluster MLB season. Like, it just feels boring. Very boring. And then the NFL starts. And then it starts with Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady garnered an audience of almost 26 million. That's not shocking. It's Tom Brady. You don't need analytics to figure out that people want to watch Tom Brady. even people who are not Tom Brady fans, like outright hostile to him, have accepted that this is Tom Brady's NFL as long as he's still there. And then you've got other people just coming around to him. I mean, again, that is a Hall of Famer across all American professional sports. The greatest current player is Tom Brady, and it doesn't matter the league right now. It's Tom Brady. He's a champion. He is a winner. He's got his BFF being awesome with him. Bad boys for life. It's fucking insane. And if you want to watch greatness, you watch when Tom Brady's televised in your area, or you have access to the games that he plays, you watch, because that is the greatest professional sports player in 2021. And so MLB, I don't know what MLB was doing, but then NFL starts its season and it's like, what? Like, oh, MLB exists. I'm very surprised that their 9/11 didn't break 5 million viewers. It was below 3. It's a little bit shocking. I thought they had the momentum from their Iowa game, and it did not. I'm shocked. I'm honestly shocked with all the. It's just with all the hype. I thought it was going to garner more viewers. It did not. And that just shows MLB's irrelevancy to everything else in 2021. No matter how hard they try to engineer their narratives, they're not working. And I caught portions of the Phillies Mets game over the weekend on Fox, and I don't want to watch I just don't want to watch what these teams have recruited. I don't want to watch Abdul Herrera, who assaulted his girlfriend. I don't want to watch a bunch of Latinos and their bling. I just visually, it's just not something I want to watch. I don't want to watch Lindor with his weird hair. I don't want to watch. It's just visually, I just don't want to watch it. It's just not aesthetically pleasing. And then obviously again, Abdul Herrera, another one like Domingo Germán, assaulted the girlfriend pretty badly. And MLB, in typical MLB form, he's playing again. I mean, the Abdul Herrera stuff was pretty bad. It's along the lines of the Domingo Germán stuff, possibly along the lines of the Aroldis Chapman stuff. But again, this week and last week, I'm talking about the cultural differences in defining greatness between American baseball and MLB. And again, it spills over into the cultural stuff, which Molly Knight should be very aware of. She has access. So to say something like, oh, Andrew Friedman's Dodgers need to change their vetting process is the ultimate stupidity. And it doesn't help her case, because she's a great example of the feminist who wants women to do men things, and yet she is in the thick of it. She doesn't cover up for them, but she definitely doesn't talk about stuff that would help the feminist cause, if that's truly her path in life. So MLB's culture is degeneracy. MLB's culture is cheating. MLB's culture is acquiring players who assault women, who cheat, who have other issues. That is MLB's culture. Andrew Friedman, Stan Kasten, HIV Magic Johnson are not going to change their vetting process. When they acquired Trevor Bauer, there's enough evidence that they knew exactly what they were getting and they didn't care. So I'm not here to dunk on men. Again, the American white male Christian is the best leader for America. And the American white male Christian doesn't go around assaulting women, doesn't even go around cheating. The problem is that in the 1900s, through television and movies, a lot of the country believes that it's the American white male Christian going around doing these horrible things, and that is not the case. When we look at just examples, I mean, sure, again, Clint Eastwood spread it around, but he's not a deadbeat dad, and from my understanding, he wasn't assaulting any women. Another example, I mean, even Babe Ruth. I don't think Babe Ruth was the most Christian of the bunch, but there's no record of him ever assaulting women. The women threw themselves at him. Who's another one? Obviously, Cap Anson, A.G. Spalding had Cap Anson followed. After 3 days, the PI was like, this guy's fine. So when Cap Anson, if you read Cap Anson's book and you read the part where he says he was faithful to his wife, he was telling the truth. He was surrounded by questionable elements on his team, but he wasn't participating in the debauchery and stuff like that. And then from there, every group has its bottom 1%. Every group, no matter how you slice it or dice it, even if it's two people, one of the two people will be the weaker link, right? And so the American white male Christian is the one that needs to lead this country. And there are plenty of examples from MLB as to why that is. So today I'm on time, and I had a little bit of time to read an article it's a research article. Comes from Gallup. So this article was published January 4th, 2018, titled "Football Still Americans' Favorite Sports to Watch." Now, they point out in 2018 that even the NFL's pie is shrinking. So they're number one in a shrinking pie. But nonetheless, American baseball was Americans' national pastime. And then the NFL took it over in 1972. Let's see if I can find my ratings really quick. So today we're discussing the more greatness of Babe Ruth. Like, I mean, here from this chart, I showed it to you yesterday as a preview. Before I move to the ratings, let me just discuss this. So I did add the source. It's eh.net, and I believe it's Economics History of Baseball. And it might have been a course. It's definitely some Marxist professor. But nonetheless, thank you for gathering this kind of information. Credit where credit is due. So what I did was I took the information from eh.net. And again, this is The column with the dollars is the average salary. The average salary. So Ty Cobb was given a multi-year contract. So that it wasn't uncommon during the Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, Joe DiMaggio era for owners to give out multi-year contracts. They're just not, they weren't sold then the way they are sold in the MLB era where, oh my goodness, Mike Trout is making $330,000 in his career. Back then they sold it as it's a multi-year contract at X amount every year or every season. And so again, so I keep jumping around, but remember, MLB is personality ethic, whereas American baseball was character ethic. And when you have character ethic, you have substance. You're not, personality ethic is engineered narratives. And it's fitting that the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey, he's the one that pointed out that this started around the early 1900s, probably somewhere around the Roaring 20s. This is the same time when Jews started coming over to America, starting exerting their influence. They invented public relations. So it makes sense that the inventors of public relations are also the creators of narratives, engineering narratives, right? It just makes sense. It all falls in line. You can't refute it without, if you want to counter argue this stuff, you've got to, I have no idea what you could come up with. I think a lot of my arguments are solid. Now, if you're going to argue based on your feelings, different story, right? But this stuff is pretty solid. And so before I go to the ratings, again, I sourced the annual average salary information from eh.net. You could see it right there. And Babe Ruth was the highest paid player per season from 1922 through 1924. And what he did in that time was nothing short of amazing. So 1922, the Yankees got that close to becoming world champions for the first time. They finally managed it in 1923. 1926, runners up. 1927, 28, champions. And then 1932, champions. So that's pretty outstanding. It's even more outstanding when you put it up against what has come after all this stuff, right? Yeah, Babe Ruth is badass. I mean, this is amazing what he did. There were, let's see. So the Senators were still in there. Is that when so Walter Johnson was with the Senators and he garnered his first champion. It was in 1924, right? And then they were runners up in 1925. And then Ty Cobb was with the Athletics at the end of his career. So by 1934, he was already retired. And then Christy Mathewson wasn't with the New York Giants in this decade anymore. So it's just interesting for me. It's never complete. Always putting things together. Always thinking, always putting things together. So let me see if I can find the ratings really quick. Oh, no, I'm not going to, I don't know where I put it. No. Apologies for that. Oh, I may have removed it. So let's go to, I'm going to keep this screen for a minute then. So, according to this Gallup poll, in 1937, Gallup first asked Americans what their favorite sport is. 1937. Americans named baseball as the most popular sport in 1948 and 1960, but football claimed the top spot in 1972. And so Africans, civil rights, give me more rights nonsense, took place in the 1960s, right? So we know that there were several African activists in professional baseball. I'm going to assume that that's a big reason why people said, I'm going to watch something else. And then, so Hank Aaron, 1975, 1976. I wonder how much of Hank Aaron's compiling home runs had to do also with people just not wanting to watch baseball anymore, or people not wanting to watch MLB anymore. Football claimed the top spot in 1972. Hank Aaron was the highest paid player by season, 1975, 1976. Oh, and then you've got Willie Mays, highest paid player, 1959. More or less through 1970. Football claimed the top spot, 1972. So I wonder how much narrative engineering there was around Willie Mays, and people are just like, I'm not watching this anymore. Especially if you were a Giants fan, right? So Willie Mays became the highest paid player by season after the Giants moved, right? So if you were a New York Giants fan, I wonder how many of those, there was that, right? There was like, I'm not watching them in San Francisco. And then you've got the narrative of Willie Mays in there. So I wonder how much that affected people's perception of MLB. Okay, so let's go back to Babe Ruth, a happy topic. So, again, so MLB's dying ratings, or lackluster ratings, mediocre ratings, however you want to name it, has a lot to do with the fact that they're constantly engineering the narrative, right? And then people are like, okay, whatever. And then it's just, there's not a lot of narrative engineering in the NFL, especially right now with Tom Brady. Once Tom Brady decides to retire at age 50 or whatever, then what do you have left? You've got, let's see if Patrick Mahomes is still in there, an obviously engineered narrative. So, the NFL will probably experience another pie shrinking, right? Because, I don't think Tom Brady's engineered. I think he's legit. And, but Patrick Mahomes is engineered, and so are a lot of other African QBs. And so, well, we'll see. But I think I'm right. I think once Tom Brady retires, the NFL will experience another pie shrink. So they'll still be number one, but the pie will shrink more. Okay, so this week I'm focusing on the salary stuff. Again, because MLB is personality ethic, which has no substance. They focus on engineering the narratives, and then you find out that, oh, he actually does suck. He just had a really good year. And I'm going to spend November crushing several narratives, and that's going to be so much fun for me. I'm going to enjoy it. I think it's super cute. Okay, let's go to A-Rod. So A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez played for Texas first, but in that time span, it's going to be interesting to see what the team's records were. So were the Texas Rangers competing during their Alex Rodriguez era? I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the Texas Rangers were not competitive. So when a team isn't competitive, it's a free-for-all, right? The so-called strategy flies out the window. Players are basically given free rein to strike out and hit as many home runs as possible, which is what's happening right now with the Kansas City Royals. They're not competitive. Are they among the 6 teams that have already been eliminated? So obviously you can allow your players to swing freely. And it's also, it's so funny the way the NFL started and the Ohtani narrative didn't survive. And then, so yesterday I took a look at his batting average. It's like 256. So it's super, super, super cute that Ohtani is hitting all these home runs for a mediocre yet again Angels team. What is going on over there? And I say this because isn't the owner Mexican? Like, do not embarrass Mexicans in that manner. He's Mexican, right? So if what this man has done in his career to amass his fortune, he's obviously intelligent. So what is going on with that team? What is going on with that team? Okay, so Ohtani has a batting average of 256. So let's go to Babe Ruth. Okay, so when Babe Ruth hit 47 home runs, I have to pull that up on my end. It's too small. Give me 1 second, please. Por favor. 1 second. Okay, so when Babe Ruth hit, that's not Babe Ruth. Oh, do I not have it on my phone? No, but I have the other one. I have the old one. Let me pull that up. Sorry. It sucks finding out you're not as prepared as you thought you were. Okay, so when Babe Ruth hit 41 home runs, he ended with a batting average of 393. When Babe Ruth hit 46 home runs, he ended with a batting average of 378. When Babe Ruth hit 47 home runs, he ended with a batting average of 372. So, when he hit 60 home runs, he ended with 356. So don't you dare. Again, this is the hole that MLB has dug for itself, right? they have to continue engineering narratives. So they keep the hole that they've dug for themselves keeps getting deeper, and they cannot get out of it. The only way they could get out of it would be to get rid of all the nerds, get rid of all the Jews, get rid of all the Africans. That's how you clean up MLB. And so they have to engineer narratives like Mike Trout, like Ohtani, like whatever's happening in Kansas, like, and then you've got the Yankees flailing. So, I mean, man, that's embarrassing. Let's look at the Yankees. That is embarrassing. The Steinbrenner Yankees are an embarrassment to the previous ownerships, to the greatness that came before them. Because the Steinbrenner reign started in 1977. We're in 2021. 30-something years. Is that 34 years? 34 seasons at this point? That's embarrassing. Jacob Ruppert and his heirs garnered 10 championships in 20 years. The ownership of Larry McFall, Dan Topping, Del Webb garnered 10 championships. Whoa. In less than 20 years. What is that? Is that 15 years? Okay, that's insane. That's fucking insane. That is why Yankees fans expect winning. That's why. That is why. And the Yankees are flailing. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, MLB engineers the narratives. How long do they have left in the season? 2 weeks? 2 more weeks? Oh, it's just embarrassing. But the Steinbrenner that talks stands behind Cashman, so they don't give a fuck. They don't. They're doing whatever they're doing. Desecrating the most coveted baseball uniform ever. Sticking steroid users in it. Sticking domestic abusers in it. Cheaters. But okay. So why did Americans love American baseball so much? Because you had guys like Babe Ruth out there. You had Ty Cobb out there. Walter Johnson, Christy Mathewson, Honus Wagner, Cy Young. So they identified with these guys. First of all, right? These guys were their countrymen. And then second, there was nothing engineered about Babe Ruth. There was nothing engineered about the first 5 Hall of Famers. And there was nothing engineered even about like Joe DiMaggio, right? The guy was legit. Mickey Mantle, same thing. Yogi Berra. They weren't engineered. They were just men who were really good at playing this game at a professional level. And then integration hits, and they realize that the African player cannot keep up with the American player. That's why all the strikeouts, the top 20 strikeout guys come from the post-integration era. Fred McGriff, Curtis Granderson, Jim Thome, Reggie Jackson, Derek Jeter, Ryan Howard. That's why your ratings are in the toilet. That's why. And so I want to tie in Scott McGreer's, Scott M. Greer's, right? Not McGreer. Are you Irish? I'm not sure. You might be Irish, right? I could be totally wrong. Sorry. I understand the perspective of some right-wing influencers who want to work within the system. But you've got to understand that 30% of whites probably are Marxist. That's that's going to be a huge hurdle. The other thing is they're flooding America with everything else. Afghanis, Haitians, South Americans. So while you're working within the system, there's a lot of things that are going to happen. If you do manage to obtain power, are you going to have the stomach to get that done? I know some things that will need to get done. The question is, will you have the stomach to do it? For example, some Americans did try to return the African slaves back to Africa. But unfortunately, it didn't become so widespread that they sent back 95% of them, right? They only shipped back a few. So it's got to be a countrywide effort to say, you know what? The regime brought you here. The regime is over. We've got to send you back. So we'll see. Again, I'm looking forward to Ramsey Paul's discussion with Scott Greer. From my understanding, it's Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Killstream Network channel. I'm just going to follow the link. So I don't know what platform they use. And so we'll see how it all pans out. So how does this all tie in? So there's two cultures to professional baseball. There's American baseball, and then there's integration. Integration, I believe what the African players were doing on behalf of MLB is the reason why people stopped watching it. It's why the NFL took over. I mean, the NFL, I mean, is the NFL more exciting to watch than MLB? No. When I was watching the NFL, before they started kneeling, I watched it to fill time. At that time, I had portions of time that I needed to fill with some sort of background noise, and I did it with the NFL. And so right now when I watch, because I'm watching the New England game, I'm watching the Tom Brady versus New England game, and then I'm watching postseason. But I'm watching specifically because I want to see what Tom Brady's doing. It's specifically Tom Brady. Once Tom Brady retires, I will have no interest in the NFL. Same goes for MLB. Once Mad Bum, Greinke, David John LeMahieu retire, I will have no interest in MLB itself. My interest will flip over to getting those guys into the hall. And then once that's over, then it's really over for me as far as MLB goes. Because my assumption is that they're not going to change. Their leadership will remain Jewish, propping up Africans, and I'm not interested in any of that in the slightest. So there's two cultures, and it ties into American baseball history. There are MLB players who swing a bat and hurt themselves. Seriously, it's so fucking embarrassing. Your career is based on swinging a fucking bat, and you can't even do that. How fucking embarrassing. But it shows something more. It shows the weakening of the American male. And that's why it's not an effort to insult the American nerd generation that identifies on the right. Obviously, the Bernie Bros, MLB's nerds, no. No, right? Like, we moved on from that. But it's just that tomorrow I'll start with this example to give you guys an idea of what I'm leaning toward. I think it's possible. I think it's possible, and I think it does remain patience. It does require patience. But it needs to get done. It needs to get started at the very least, and then we can kind of go from there. Because what has happened? Why isn't there another Babe Ruth in MLB? Because why do we have this in MLB? Why do we have a steroids Dominican as the top earner in MLB? Why during his era, when he was the highest paid player, why are there no championships attached to it? Or when a white player was the highest paid player in a season, Andrew Friedman, Farhan Zaidi decided to go against their own team. There's several reasons for it. So one more example of Babe Ruth's greatness. Tomorrow, I'll start off with that example. And then I'll spend one more day on the salary stuff. And then I will move into a little bit more of my cross-check test. I believe all the elements are in. I believe I've covered all the elements. So the only other element is what ballot they got in. So when Derek Jeter makes the cutest joke ever of one writer didn't vote for him. Well, Joe DiMaggio got in on the third ballot, and he's a 9-time World Series champion. He has 2 titles. No. He garnered 2 batting average titles, 2 home run titles, 2 RBI titles. Joe DiMaggio got in on the third ballot, Derek Jeter. So you might be full of yourself. You may be encouraged to be full of yourself, but there's nothing great about you. And that's a lot of the problem. And I see it in some guys where they've talked to you in a manner to make you believe that you are great. And when you find out that you're not, I feel like it's earth-shattering. And I do feel a little bad about that. But it has to be tough to realize that you're not great at a later age. I mean, it's got to be difficult. And I know it's going to be difficult for some of the guys who make the Hall of Fame ballot for the first time. So I will not attach names to that. When I dissect it, I'm not going to put your names next to it, but you'll be able to visually see why you're not a Hall of Famer. Okay, so let's end with this screen. So today, one more reason why Babe Ruth is great. One more reason why MLB's ratings are in the toilet. One more reason why American baseball is no longer the American pastime. Tomorrow I'll spend one more day diving into the salary stuff, and then I'm going to go into, I should have the ballots, what ballot these guys got in on. Technically, I should remove Lou Gehrig since he got in on the Veterans Committee. We don't know, right? We don't know if he would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer, given that Joe DiMaggio was a third ballot Hall of Famer, and then Cy Young was a second ballot Hall of Famer. So we don't know where Lou Gehrig would have gone in. And I have an opinion on Lou Gehrig. It has something to do about his speech, and that's why I don't respect Lou Gehrig. So hopefully everybody, you'll have a wonderful Tuesday. I will see you back Wednesday, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, live. Tomorrow I'll be speaking a little bit more about the salary stuff. And then Thursday, Friday, I'll start talking about the ballot stuff, like what ballot everybody got in on. And I should have at least a few outlines of titles and stuff like that. So thank you very much. See you guys. I will see you guys tomorrow.